Daryl Hall and John Oates are the definition of blue-eyed soul. After a string of monster hits that stretched from the 70s into the mid-80s, the RIAA, which hands out the gold and platinum plaques to artists, named Hall and Oates the #1 selling duo in music history. Think about that. Not Ike and Tina, not Simon and Garfunkel, not Outkast. Daryl Hall and John Oates. And they still hold that record today. But even with that distinction and the Philadelphia duo's undeniable chemistry, Hall and Oates have always maintained that they're two individual artists. Like an old married couple, Daryl Hall says the duo has managed to stay together for the sake of the dozens of songs they wrote together, which they consider their kids. On today's episode, Bruce Headlam talks to Daryl Hall about the night he met John Oates in an elevator as they fled a gang fight in Philly. Daryl also talks about the years he spent working with the production duo Gamble and Huff, who pioneered the Philly soul sound. And Daryl explains why, despite his huge success, he doesn't even really like pop music. This is Broken Record, liner notes for the digital age. I'm Justin Richmond. Here's Bruce Headlam and Daryl Hall.
While I was doing some research, I realized three things. One, everybody loves Daryl Hall and John Oates, and everybody's got a favorite song.
Glad to hear it.
The second thing I didn't know is your group's name has never been Hall and Oates.
No.
It's Daryl Hall and John Oates. Did you get tired of correcting people at some point, or you just go, yeah?
Well, no, we never get tired of correcting people because the whole point of it is that we are two different people. We're not Mutt and Jeff. We're not the Bobbsey twins. We're not bobbleheads. You know, we are two absolutely distinct artists who share a stage.
Okay, then from now on it's Daryl Hall and John Oates. I won't let that happen anymore.
There you go.
And the other thing I didn't know about was Out of Touch Thursday. Do you know about this?
No. What is it?
Out of Touch Thursday is on Thursdays. People put up little video memes to Out of Touch. Like they'll take clips from The Simpsons or from some crazy Japanese anime thing, people
Really?
dancing to Out of Touch. And they get just an astounding number of hits.
I knew nothing of this.
Okay, well, now, every Thursday I want you to look. If you go to the Out of Touch video on your own video on YouTube, people hear, well, I'm here because it's Thursday. It's Out of Touch Thursday.
Wow.
So, I know.
I'll tell you, shit goes on I don't know about. You know, it's great, man.
The kids today. Okay, so you are one half of the best-selling pop duo in history. Not only pop, but you guys have had huge hits on the soul charts. So I kind of want to go back to where it started in Philadelphia, because I think people forget Philadelphia had its own music culture. And you started it very young, in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia is one of the great music cities in the United States, in the world, really. And it's distinct the way Detroit is, or I'll even add New Orleans in there. You know, it's its own place. It's regional. We separately started as kids in that world. I mean, I was involved in the beginning of the Sound of Philadelphia, what people call the Sound of Philadelphia.
And that was at Sigma Studio, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you doing back, because you were in high school when some of this started. What were you doing in the studio back then?
Well, I wasn't in the studio in high school, but as soon as I got out of high school, I started spending all my time in Philadelphia, in the city, and immediately got hooked up with Gamble and Huff and Tommy Bell and people like that. And I was thrown into it, really. And I was part of the whole scene, you know, and I was doing studio work, playing some keyboards, doing some background singing, writing songs, doing various things like that.
Because it's Philadelphia. Was Lee Andrews part of that scene?
Absolutely.
Did you know him?
No, I did not know him, but I idolized him, you know. And when I found out that Questlove that was his father, you know. I didn't find out until Lee died, and then I emailed Quest because I told him, I said, man, your father was a major influence on me. You know, the song Teardrops and all those kind of songs. And that was that early Philadelphia, what some people call doo-wop, I don't call it that. You know, it was early R&B soul singing, you know, vocal group singing.
He was the son of one of the Dixie Hummingbirds, too.
Yeah, they have quite a lineage, that bunch.
Yeah. So when you met like Gamble and Huff or Tom Bell, who had these incredible careers, did you know like when you met them like these guys are going on to big things, or were they just guys you worked with?
Well, they were big in the neighborhood. You know, they were stars already in a very local way. You know, Kenny owned a record store, and he had Kenny Gamble and the Romeos, which was a studio band, but also his band. Tommy Bell was sitting at the piano writing, and he was working with a group of guys that I knew, the Delphonics, and I thought they were fantastic. That's the best way I could put it. I immediately became a sponge to them. But when I say I was a sponge, I was also contributing. You know, it was a back and forth thing.
What did you take from them from those early days? Was it songwriting? Was it singing?
Songwriting. Tommy Bell, and well, both of them, both Leon Huff and Tommy Bell. I learned a lot about songwriting. I learned about piano playing from Leon Huff a lot. The way he plays piano is very similar to the style that I've adopted. And Tommy Bell, his chords were just really unique in the R&B soul world. He was a fan of Burt Bacharach, and he adapted Burt Bacharach's interesting chords into a more soulful way, soulful situation. And I watched that transition. I mean, I watched him write songs and listen to Burt Bacharach and everything else. So it was school, man. It was like going to school with these guys.
That's fascinating because I looked up a bunch of your songs, mainly your hits, and they're very sophisticated. The chords are very sophisticated. There's a lot of ninth chords. You do this trick on a couple of songs that I find really interesting, which is you really delay getting back to the tonic.
Yeah.
Like a song like Kiss on My List, you're listening to it and you think, well, it starts in B minor, so I guess it's in B minor. But then it's in B major, so hey, I think it's in B major. But it's not, it's in F sharp. And you don't get to it for a long time. And a couple of your songs you do that. You're just like, oh, and it really surprises you.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, I play around with this sort of major minor thing a lot. What else do? I don't know. I mean, I do all kinds of things. I go all over the place.
Well, you do all kinds of things that a lot of pop bands didn't do. I mean, the Beatles did some of it.
Yeah.
But, you do a lot of chromatic things, like changes.
Sure.
Sarah Smile's got a lot of diminished chords in it, not just as passing tones.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're very... It kind of surprised me. And I realized, well, this is why these songs they sound different than, I would say, pop songs, not from soul songs, because soul songs have a lot of that kind of in it.
Well, I was going to say I took a lot from gospel music and soul music. A chord like, there's that kind of stuff. That's gospel. That's church music, and I adapted it. And I don't know, man. I went to music school. I know harmony and theory. It's in the blood, and I know what goes to where and what can go to where and things like that. And I make use of it. It's sort of not consciously so much as unconsciously.
What was music like at home for you before you were at the studio with these guys?
My mother was in a band when I was a kid, all through my teens, from the earliest childhood all the way through my teens. So some of my first memories are watching her on stage.
What kind of band was it?
It was like a big band, kind of a Lawrence Welk kind of big band, but, like a variety show. But it was music, had an audience, and people were playing. It was kind of the pop songs of the time and all that kind of thing. And it was a local Philadelphia area, southeast Pennsylvania thing. And I used to go on the road with her and watch this, and I was bowed down to the band leader. This guy was named Bill Lamb, and I was like, I wanted to be Bill Lamb, and he had his baton and his white dinner jacket, all that shit. And my dad had a vocal group with his brothers and sang gospel music, and my mother was the choir director of the church and all that kind of thing. So I mean, it was all tied together in that kind of a milieu, and very gospel-y, show-busy kind of thing.
Did your mother teach you to sing?
Yeah, she was a vocal teacher too. She used to give lessons, and she taught me from the earliest. I mean, my mother's a great singer. She's 98 now, so she's not such a great singer, but which pisses her off, to tell you the truth. But Yeah, she was a great singer, and she knew how to sing. She always had me panting like a dog, so I would get into using my diaphragm and not sing from my throat, stuff like that.
Do you still do that today?
Absolutely. Once you learn something, it becomes part of you. A singer, it's a very organic thing being a singer. It has to do with your head and your physical body, the way the size of your throat, and everything contributes to what comes out of your mouth when you sing.
Mm-hmm. You go so quickly from a sort of lower register to a high register in so many of your songs. She taught you that, or did you get that from her?
Not so much. I don't know where I got that from. That's just vocal facility, I'll call it. If I feel like doing one thing, I do it.
Yeah. So when did you know music, this is going to be your life?
I didn't really think about it so much when I was a kid. I just did it. And I came up at a time where I wasn't even in a place where I wasn't sure I could ever make any money at it, really. I think when I finally got involved with Kenny and Leon and Tommy Bell, I said, okay, there is a career here to be had. And that's when I realized that I needed to do this. It was a compulsion.
And were your parents encouraging?
Always.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I guess they'd been in the business. It didn't scare them?
Nah, it didn't scare them. They had a lot of confidence in me. They knew what I could do.
You went to Temple, and then you met John Oates.
Yeah.
Is it true you met at a fight?
Yeah, sort of. It was a dance, really. It was they used to call them record hops, It was where everybody went and lip-synced their songs and did that kind of thing. And it was in West Philadelphia, and it was an R&B show. And we were on, his band was on the bill, and so was mine. And about 3/4 of the way through the show, some gang shit broke out, and it got pretty crazy, and everything stopped basically, and it was on a second floor, and we both found ourselves in an elevator going down to the street, and I was like, hey, I guess that didn't work out very well, and then we got talking and found out that he was also a student at Temple. We were both freshmen, and we wound up being roommates, because we both lived, our parents both lived outside of towns, and we needed to be in town, so we started renting apartments together.
Did you start performing together, or did you write together first?
We were friends and writing separately, and we would occasionally, I don't know, we didn't really write together. We didn't really start doing that until after school, and I was already ensconced very deeply in the whole Sigma Sound thing, and I brought John into it. He was traveling around. He had just graduated, was traveling around Europe, and I said, okay, why don't you come in here, and get involved in this with me? And then we started writing songs and started performing together then. And that was about I forget when, 70, I'll say, 70, 71.
Yeah. And is there a moment you said, well, I click with this guy, like our voices work, the writing works, something works here?
The first time that we ever recorded together, we said, okay, well, we'll be songwriters, but we'll never work together because we sound so bad together. He sang a little flat, and I was singing a little sharp, and it just grated on your nerves. It was horrible. And it took a little while for us to adapt our vocal harmony style so that we locked together, and then it turned into what it is. But it didn't start well.
Really? That's amazing. Because you hear about like other groups, the Everly Brothers or Simon and Garfunkel, and there's just some moment where they go, oh, well, the Everly Brothers their father made them do it, but there's this moment you go, well, these voices just sound incredible together.
That never happened.
No?
No, it actually never happened.
Well, there's still a chance,
There's still a chance, maybe.
You're going back out on the road. You still could have that magic moment where you go, hey, we sound pretty good.
Yeah.
We should be in a band. So you guys got signed to Atlantic. Well, first of all, tell me about your second album, because it was produced by, Arif Mardin, who's just a legendary producer. I think he did those Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack records. He did so many great albums.
He did so many things, you can't even name them all. We got together with Arif right at the peak of his time, He was coming off such a, well, not coming off. He was involved in such a dynamic role of working with such disparate musicians. I mean, everybody from country artists to jazz artists to Carly Simon kind of artists to Aretha to Donny Hathaway to you name it. I mean, it's like on and on and on and on. And we were right in the smack dab in the middle of all that. You know, we couldn't have been in a better place to make our first couple albums. And the thing I liked so much about Arif, beside the fact that he was the only person I can think of that was or is better or as good as him, is Quincy. And in the same way, he knows how to draw the best out of any kind of music, any kind of artist, and work with them and suggest things and mold it and turn it into something that is bigger than what it was. And I learned so much from him. I can't even tell you how much I learned from Arif, and I love the guy. And I'm so sorry he's gone.
You know, on that album, you did "She's Gone," which is just one of the great R&B songs of all time. I mean, it's just an incredible song, but it wasn't a hit for you.
Not originally, no. Atlantic put it out. You know how these things are. I mean, hits are funny things. Atlantic put it out. It didn't really do anything. They played it on what they called underground radio back then, FM radio, right? Then a group called Tavares put out a version of it, and it became an R&B hit on the charts. And then a couple of years later, we re-released it, and it became a number one. I don't know if it was number one, but it was definitely top 5.
A huge hit, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it encouraging that other people were having hits with your music, or discouraging that it wasn't you?
That was frustrating because I knew that our version was still the best one, and we were starting out, and I felt a bit like, okay, they're stealing our steam, you know, it's messing with our momentum. But it all worked out. A couple of years, you know, and we get out on the road. I wrote Sarah Smile, and that became an R&B hit, and then She's Gone jumped right in and right after it.
Was it because you were white artists? Do you think that it made it a little harder to get on the R&B charts, just the way the record business works?
No, I don't. Not for us. We're different. We're anomalies. I was on the R&B charts in Philadelphia with a group called the Temp Tones. We had a hard time breaking into pop radio. The black community embraced us really early on in our music. So we came in through another way than most people do.
Yeah. When Atlantic dropped you, what didn't they see that they should have seen?
Well, I don't blame them. I lost it for a little while there. We had just moved from Philadelphia to New York, and I made a record, and I will say I made it because it was mostly me and Todd Rundgren. We made a record called War Babies, and it was not what Atlantic wanted at all. They wanted, R&B music, and which is cool. That's my heart anyway. But for some reason, I decided I wanted to make that record. And it was a bad idea, really. Now that I look back on it, it was certainly a creative, that's all it was a creative album. But it was sort of mutual. We thought, okay, maybe we should try going to some other label that would be more willing to run with our expanding creative style.
Mm-hmm. And later, I'm jumping ahead here, and I do want to go back to when you guys really started your run of hits. But you then went and did 2 really great albums with Robert Fripp. And a lot of people would not put you together with Robert Fripp. He loved you. Talked about like you were the vocalist who could do anything.
Yeah.
Tell me about meeting him and how those came about.
Well, I've been living and spending time in the UK for ever since really Philadelphia. I mean, it's the mid-'70s. And I was interested in Robert, his music. I love King Crimson. And I got to know him, and we became friends. And then after that, we both said, well, why don't we try doing something together? Nobody will expect it. And our roots are so different, but yet we have sort of the same sensibilities. And that's what we did. And we decided to just go for it and make a record. And that's one of the best things I think I ever did. And him too.
Mm-hmm. Do you still play things from it today?
On Live from Daryl's House, I do. Yeah, I do, yes.
Okay. Do you keep up with him as well?
Every once in a while, we check in. You know, I wanted to have him on the show I just watched a podcast of his where he said that he wanted to have form a supergroup, and I was going to be the lead singer. And then I just saw that a couple of days ago. So I mean, we're still sort of circling around each other.
Well, you should do that because that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Then you did this, starting, I guess, in the early 80s. And you'd had a couple hits. You'd had Rich Girl. You'd had Sarah Smile. But then you just went on this tear of hits. I think you've had 16 top 10 hits, 6 number ones. You'd Kiss on My List and You Make My Dreams Come True, Private Eyes, One on One. At this point, did you just feel like you were a singles band as opposed to an album band at that point? Like this is what you're doing?
That's how it turned out, but not at all. I'd never felt... I don't really like pop music, if you want the truth. I participate in it, and obviously my style fits into what people call pop mode, but I never ever thought of myself as a singles artist. When I make an album, it is a complete statement, and the single thing comes after the fact. That's somebody wants to sell something, so they pick a song and then they pick another song, but it's not intent. There's no intent involved in that.
There are people you've worked with that have been important to your career, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about them. Sarah and Jana Allen, whom you wrote with. You wrote
Right.
a lot of things with. How did that come about, and what was the writing relationship like?
Sarah was I met her in Philadelphia. She was my partner for 28 years, and she was there, and she is a talented lyricist, and she would jump in after a certain, I don't know, I forget when the first song was, but she would start suggesting ideas. I say, that's a good idea. I'm gonna sing that. I'm gonna do that. Then she became more and more involved in the lyrics, and she was involved in a lot of songs, a lot of songs in a lyrical way. Her sister Jana, who I also became really close with, a younger sister, was more of a musician. She was a guitar player and a singer, and she came up with amazing ideas. The first song we ever wrote together was Kiss on My List, and that was about a 50-50 song. And I wrote that for her because she wanted to be an artist, and I made a demo of it, and everybody said, "You're nuts if you give that away." And the demo is what you hear. That was just done with this rolling copy rhythm, boop, boop, boom, boom, and all that stuff. That was a demo. That wasn't even a real recording.
Oh, amazing. The other people that come to mind are T-Bone Walk, who's your longtime bass player.
Oh, yeah.
People know him from Saturday Night Live, but tell us a little bit about him and his contribution.
Well, T-Bone joined us in, I believe, right before the Private Eyes album, and we immediately became really close friends. I loved T-Bone. He was a great guy. He had a really unique sense of humor, and he was an unbelievable musician. I mean, just so good. And we just got closer and closer, and musically and as friends. And we started producing. Eventually, we started producing records together and doing things like that. I brought him more and more into it. I used to say when he was around, I used to say he's the and in Hall and Oates.
And then you're a sax player.
Yeah.
Charlie Deschamps.
Yeah.
And people know him, I guess, Man-Eater is maybe one of the best-known sax solos from that era.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he plays some distinctive sax solos. He's been with us the longest of everybody. And he started in 75, I want to say. So that's a hell of a long time he's been with us. And he's just great. He's again, a really accomplished musician. Really, really good. Not only sax player, but everything.
Mm-hmm. You must have, during that time, you had that run of singles and albums. You must have been enjoying the kind of success I doubt you ever imagined. Most people can't imagine that kind of success. What was it like? It must have been very heady.
Yeah, it was. When it happened for the first time, and it really happened hard, as you say. And it's the old cliches. We felt like we were in the eye of the hurricane and all that kind of stuff, where things were going on around us, and we were kind of like stuck in the middle, traveling around, working, going around the world constantly, recording and performing, back and forth. That's really all we did back then. We didn't really do anything else. And it's really hard to describe it because you have to live it. I felt as if I were objectified a lot, like I was an object, not a person. which is unpleasant. But at the same time, I felt that I had the ear of the world so that I could make some music. I think it perpetuates itself. You know, when you know that you have the ear of the world, then it spurs you on to do more. At least it does me. And that was sort of the way I felt back then.
And then when the singles stopped coming, you guys were still doing albums. Was it, and I'm sure you were still touring and, you know, every venue was sold out. Was it difficult when you weren't on the radio anymore, but you were still doing music?
Yeah, I mean, difficult. I wouldn't use the word difficult. It just was, I've been doing this and I've been around it long enough to know that things have highs and lows. You have to. And individually, we went through different changes right then. I mean, between 1985 and about 1990, we were making records. I made a solo record with Dave Stewart, which I had hits on, by the way. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we just rolled with it. And the next thing I knew, I was playing. I mean, we never stopped playing. That's the thing. When you're in front of an audience, you're in front of an audience. I mean, there they are. You know, it doesn't matter about chart positions or any of that kind of stuff.
And now you guys are going back out on tour.
Yeah.
Was this delayed because of COVID, or is this just when you had it planned?
Oh, well, everything fell to pieces. I mean, the last time we played was February of 20, and we played at Madison Square Garden, and then the shit hit the fan, and here we are, you know? I mean, we would have gone out as soon as we could, but circumstances didn't allow that. So here we are, and we're one of the first bands going out.
How is it, and I don't mean this facetiously, but how have you guys made it work this long? Pop duos, you know, you think Simon and Garfunkel or the Righteous Brothers, who broke up pretty soon after their biggest hits. The Everly Brothers broke up on stage. How have you guys been able to sort of keep this going?
I don't know. We might break up on stage.
One day, you're just going to...
You never know.
Smash a guitar over the other one's head?
It's quite possible.
Is it? Is your relationship
I'm
like
not going
that?
there. I'm not going there. No. I'm not telling you anything about that.
Okay. Well, it'll be... You've got to come back on the podcast, but only if you're the one who gets hit by the guitar. Right? I'll make that. Okay.
Well, I would have to defend myself, though. Excuse me.
Okay. Well, he described it recently. He said, and he meant this very affectionately, you're like divorced parents. You've got to look after the kids, and the kids are your songs. You got to look after them.
That's a line we both use, and it's true. We stay together. I wouldn't call us we're not divorced parents. We are parents who stay together because of the kids. And I wouldn't say that we have the most amazing creative relationship right now, but we have our songs that we do. And I think we're at the point where we're thinking about being even more than we ever were, being more individuals. And we'll see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think is there more recording for you guys, or?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Well, the songs are your kids. Are there some kids you like more than other kids? Parents aren't supposed to say that, but is there a time when you get up on stage, you're like, this is the song I love, this is the one I'm happy to play?
I like singing Sarah Smile because it's so real and so personal. There's a lot of them that way. 101's one of those. I mean, I don't know. I can't really say there's a song that I like more than another one because I wouldn't sing it. If I didn't like the song or I was tired of the song, I would just drop it. We have a lot more to fill in the blank, you know?
Are there like well-known hits of yours that people show up for and you're like, yeah, I can't do that tonight?
I tried doing that and people get angry. You know, you didn't play Private Eyes. It's like, okay, sorry. And that's a good problem, you know, because we have an obligation to play all these songs, and that we actually can't play them all in a set unless we were going to do one of these ridiculously long sets. We have so many songs to play, you know, and we try and throw things in that are less known or whatever, and things like that. But most of the time, we're obligated to play certain songs.
Mm-hmm. You're like contractually obligated. You've got to...
Well, the contract between us and the public, yes.
So what are you writing now?
I've been coming up with ideas, but I don't like to take things to completion until it's time to complete it. And I've been in sort of creative hibernation. I have a lot of songs. I did a lot of false starts, and I believe early next year, I'm going to start really getting serious about putting these things down.
Are you one of those songwriters who the songs don't make sense until you're in the studio?
No, they make sense from the get-go, from me sitting at the instrument.
And your other outlet I have to ask you about is, are you buying more homes now? Are you restoring anything big?
I'm still restoring the same home that I was doing. I backed off it for a little while, and now I'm back on it again. And actually, that's what I was doing during this whole lockdown thing, is I was just working on the house. So at least that was something to do.
What does that give you that's different from music? What kind of satisfaction?
Well, actually gives me the same satisfaction in some ways. It's not that spontaneous birds got to sing kind of satisfaction, but there's a certain kind of creative stimulation that it provides. Restoring an old house or anything like that, it's not that dissimilar to getting a group of people together who you really think are amazing and doing an album, and everybody's contributing their little ideas. And it's the same thing with these artisans, guys that build antique style chimneys and people that know this and know that. And I'm sort of the producer that holds it all together. And I have a lot of knowledge about antique architecture, especially between this 17th and 19th century. So I like to do it. That's all I can say. I've done a lot of them.
Well, song architecture too. So best of luck on the tour. I don't think you're going to need it from me, but it'll be fantastic for people to see you guys again.
Well, it'll be great to be out there and see them. So it works both ways.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks to Daryl Hall for coming on the show and chatting with Bruce. You can check out all our favorite Hall and Oates songs at brokenrecordpodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Broken Record. Broken Record is produced with help from Leah Rose, Jason Gambrell, Martin Gonzalez, Eric Sandler, and Jennifer Sanchez. With engineering help from Nick Chafee, our executive producer is Mia LaBelle. Broken Record is a production of Pushkin Industries. And if you like our show, please remember to share, rate, and review us on your podcast app. Our theme music's by Kenny Beats. I'm Justin Richmond.